Welcome, everybody. First order of business is public comment. People can come to the podium and speak on any topic for 2 minutes. So if there is anyone in the audience that would like to address the board, please step forward to the microphone now. Tell us your name and address and what you would like to say. I will ask a couple more times just to make sure. Anyone who would like to speak, if you are here in the audience or if you are attending this meeting via Ring Central and you would like to address the county board, either step to the podium or unmute yourself and catch our attention. And for the third and final time, is there anyone here in the audience or attending via the internet that would like to address the county board during the public comment period? Hearing nothing, we'll move on. Next order of business would be the approval of the previous board minutes.
I'll move approval of 3.1. Second.
Commissioner Jacob has moved and Commissioner Olson has seconded approval of the previous board minutes for the meeting of May 24th, 2022. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion is approved. We also have some receipt of approved committee minutes.
Move to acknowledge 4.1 and 4.2. Second.
Commissioner Jacob has moved and Commissioner Olson has seconded. Approval of receipt of approved committee minutes. These are for the Planning Commission of April 21st of this year and the Board of Adjustment for the same date. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. The next order of business is to approve our agenda or make modifications if commissioners so choose. Commissioner Ward.
Just 2 updates from committee meetings at the end, please.
Mr. Kavesi.
Yeah, I have 1 committee report.
Mr. Olson.
Nothing for me.
Commissioner Jacob.
Nothing for me.
I have a proposed board action. Commissioner
So do I.
Do you have a board action?
I do.
Okay. All right. So nothing has come off the consent agenda, but we do have some additional activities after we have done our general business. So would anyone like to approve the revisions of?
So move the presented agenda.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Ward has moved and Commissioner Jacob has seconded to approve our agenda with some modifications. Is there any discussion? All those, if hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the agenda is set. Could the interim administrator please read to us what is on the consent agenda?
6.1, approve conditional use permit for James and Deborah Ramley. 6.2, approve performance measures resolution. 6.3, approve Department of Natural Resources Snowmobile Grant and Aid Program resolutions for Minnesota Trail Assistance Program. 6.4, approve professional service agreement with DS Solutions for online election judge training. 6.5, approve renewal of liquor on/off sale licenses and 3.2% off sale licenses. 6.6, approve master partnership contract with MnDOT and resolution. 6.7, approve replacement of Highway Department storm damaged shed. 6.8, approve professional services agreement with Julie Thompson Hakes. 6.9, approve contract for cost share to Bruce Barkheim for equipment and installation to remove contaminants from water. 6.10, approve equipment lease purchase agreement with Motorola Solutions Incorporated for Dispatch Center. And 6.11, confirm payment of disbursements.
I will move to approve the consent business as read. Second.
Jacob has moved and Commissioner Olson has seconded approval of the consent business as read by the interim administrator. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, consent agenda is approved. The first item under general business is committee recommendations. How does the board wish to proceed?
I'd like a presentation on it.
Do we have a presentation?
Not that I'm aware of, no, but we do have staff here if there are questions.
Can staff give us an overview? So the public knows what we're talking about?
Sorry.
That's you, Ron?
Yes, I'm standing in for Kay today. So
With
this,
the- Could you introduce yourself?
yes, I'm Ross Dunsmore, Environmental Services Department.
Thank
So this is the grant agreement that was approved at a previous board meeting for doing some enhancements at the Stone Point Park area. This was brought before the board prior to applying for the grant. We did receive the grant in the amount of $176,010 to begin with the execution of the grant through June 2025. So at this point, this is just the final process and approving the contract to be signed and executed.
Could you explain the activities that the grant, it's brush clearing and trails largely, or?
It does not involve trails at this point.
Okay.
At this point, it is to address invasives up at the property. It is to enhance the native plantings, do some drill seeding with to enhance the habitat and restore it to more natural prairie. So the vast majority of that enhancement will be paid for through a DNR grant.
When you talk about enhancing the natural prairie, what's the advantages of that? Who are we trying to enhance it for? People or butterflies or animals or who?
Pretty much everything.
Okay.
So it is an enhancement is to, at this point, we have a number of different invasive species and trees that are taking over the property, and doing prairie enhancements, getting that established, help choke out some of those invasive species. And then conducting regular burns of the property will be the other factor in maintaining that in a more natural prairie environment. So
Commissioner Kavesi, I'm sorry, do you still have the floor?
Well, it's an ongoing battle.
it's an ongoing battle. Yes.
Invasives are strong and have their desire to live and thrive, and knowing having some set aside government farming acres, it's constant. And I'm not sure who's going to win the battle in the long run, but I guess it's obviously there's a grant to fight the battle.
We've invested a fair amount of time over the years with the Department of Ag grants on the Oriental bittersweet up at the property as well as around the county. So yes, it's a constant battle trying to keep them in check and keep them from taking over completely. So.
Commissioner Kavesi?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks to the Parks and Environment Committee. These are volunteers, and they're a very active group. So I appreciate the initiative that this group took to institute this program. And I think it will enhance greatly the property. So without any county board funding, you've managed to improve our parks. So thank you.
Thank you.
I move acceptance, approval of item 7.1.
Second.
Okay. Administrator Holty.
On the board, as I have sent a communication to you, there are some outstanding concerns with the plan and implementation. Part of that is we need to ensure that the items that are up at that location are secured, and that we have safety measures addressed through MCIT. So I am asking that that be part of your motion to ensure that those are addressed. I'm not saying stop the project. I am saying that we need to make sure that the concerns, risk management, et cetera, are taken care of.
With that said, I know we have the sheriff and chief deputy here. You have facilities up there. Do you feel your facilities are taken care of and secured and public safety is addressed?
Well, the way things are right now, it is secure. We have a number of things up there at the landfill. And I do have a lot of concern about opening up that area to the public, to a park, or just opening it up in general. Right now it's locked. There's a number of keys out there, but I'm just really worried about having the area become a park. And I mean, we could get into specifics, but I really don't want it out in public right now.
Okay. All right. So we need to do a thorough review of what we have, what we need to,
I'll just say we've used the property up there for a number of years, and we've had little to no problems so far. But of course, the more people that have access, and there's quite a few with access right now, it's just, in my opinion, asking for problems for what we have up there from the sheriff's office.
So with the gun range up there, is everything secure? There's no concerns about the interactions between a gun range and these activities that are proposed with this,
I do have concerns.
with this particular application?
Yes, that we want to put a parking area up there with up to 50 parking stalls, which would be quite a ways away. But, you know, as people are using the trails, I don't know how you keep them on the trails. I don't know how you keep them out even with a fence if people want to see what we're doing. We do a lot of training up there. You know, we have a SWAT team, emergency response team that train and are up there every month. And I encourage my guys to go up there and practice because, you know, it's a big part of the job. You're carrying a firearm with you all the time, and you need to be proficient and be able to use it. So we have people up there using the gun range a lot.
What's your understanding of this application today?
That they are looking at the process of eventually using grant dollars to begin the process, and the process would start with putting in trails. And the trails, one would be just past the gun range, one would be basically at the gun range, and one would be right before the gun range.
My understanding is that that's not where we're at yet today.
That's not what I read in the grant. Commissioner Kavesi.
Yeah, I'd be willing to amend the motion to add to address the risk management with a safety study. And I just want to make note that this is a very preliminary stage to opening up the park. I can see that there are some concerns, but I think between now and opening up the park, we have time to do a study and make some adjustments, transfer something, you know, whatever we need to
Right.
do.
I understand this is a beginning of it, but I just want,
Yeah.
I want the board to be aware of my concerns of
That's,
in the future,
yeah.
we may have problems, or it could open up problems.
I agree, and I appreciate you coming forward at this early stage.
Mr. Jacob.
Ron, my understanding is that what we're doing here today is simply dealing largely with invasive habitat. So eliminating some of these invasive species.
That would be good. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, so I share your concerns with the steps of moving us towards an actual park. And then the really tax liability that's going to go with that, maintaining and all those pieces. So my intent is to support this today, but I don't, if this was putting trails in, I wouldn't be supporting it. This is really maintaining our property. And this
Clean up.
is roughly the same size as my farm, and I know what it's like to deal with, buckthorn and Oriental bittersweet and species that shouldn't be there, and maybe clearing some view sheds, things of that nature. So I can support that activity going on up there, but if we get to a point where we're trying to open yet another taxpayer-funded park, I'm not at that point.
Well, you're absolutely right, Commissioner Jacob. It does say that this is for prairie restoration. But in the summary, it goes on to say next phases. And the next phases, I think, are problematic that we need to be well aware of establishing hiking trails, multi-use public recreation, interpretive areas, and repair of areas. So I think the Parks and Environment Committee has to really be cognizant of what the concerns are and moving into those next phases. So I agree with you. Prairie restoration and invasive species is what this is about, but the next phases is what we need to be really concerned about.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
I wasn't aware of all this that was going on, and I've talked to a number of people, Administrator Holte and some of the other staff, and I just want to be clear that I have concerns about the future here.
Right.
I agree that there's a lot of things that need to be cleaned up there because it is being overwhelmed, overcome.
Where our discussion is at right now, Commissioner Kavesi has made a motion to make an amendment to her original
I'll
motion.
second that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Olson has seconded that. Is there?
Can you restate the amendment, please?
Commissioner Kavesi, would you like to restate the amendment?
I would add that we addressed the risk management issues with a safety study. And there's really no timeline on that, but I think obviously before, as we get further along into some of the next steps, that's when we perhaps could do the safety study.
Is there further discussion on the amendment? Hearing none. Those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, so the original motion has been amended and that's approved. So the original motion is still on the floor. Any further discussion on that?
The original motion?
The original motion.
Yeah. Sure, I'm gonna support the original motion as it's amended, but that should not be taken as my support for further activities in that park.
Further discussion? If not, speaking last as the chair, I would like to single out John Howard, who is in the audience. John is on staff at the city. He, I understand, is the main author of this grant. He is on our Parks and Environment Committee. He has an amazing track record with receiving grants, so I'm very excited. I read in here that this is one of the largest grants that our parks, that we've ever received for park restoration. So I'm very excited about that and really grateful for all the service. I echo the things that Commissioner Kavesi said about the volunteers and the Parks Committee and the work that they do. Okay, hearing no other discussion, all those in favor of approving item 7.1, which is accepting the DNR Conservation Partners Legacy Grant funding for Stone Point Park Prairie Reestablishment, going with activities going on this year through 2025. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. We're now to department recommendations. 7.2 is to potentially approve the State of Minnesota Cooperative Agreement to Fund Treatment Court and resolution proclaiming support of National Treatment Court Month. How does the board wish to proceed? Do we have a presentation? Oh, Ms. Hyder is here.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to chat with you this morning. My name is Karen Hyder. I'm the Treatment Court Coordinator, and I have with me Jeremy Polis. He's a current Treatment Court participant, and Jeremy Bobo, a graduate of our program. So I'd just like to briefly share a few updates over the past year for our program, and then these gentlemen would like to share briefly what Treatment Court has meant to them in their experience. Oopsie. Okay. All right, like I said, I'm the coordinator. I've been the coordinator for 5 years. I've been with the county for 3 of those 5 years. I'm responsible for the case management for our program and all of the program administration as well. I also have a wonderful team of professionals and community members that support me and support our participants and graduates in the program. So if I reference the team, that's who I'm referring to. There's 13 of us. There's currently 26 participants and graduates under our immediate supervision. There's 16 current participants and 10 graduates that are still on probation. We are one of 68 operational programs in the state of Minnesota, and we've been in operation for 10 years this fall. This October, we'll celebrate 10 years of operation. With that, we've had 43 graduates of our program, and we're anticipating our 44th graduate, Mr. Polis, in July. So on our agenda today, our request is the cooperative agreement. We've come to the county board before with this. The state of Minnesota is allotting us $86,400. And so we're hoping for approval of that again this fiscal year. Also, we just celebrated National Treatment Court Month, the month of May every year. We celebrated that by having 2 graduations. Mr. Bobo was one of those graduates in May. And so Judge Beitendorf, our treatment court judge, spoke about National Treatment Court Month, acknowledged it, and shared a history of our program and treatment courts across the nation at that event. And I just want to share 3 highlights of the past year for all of you. The first is a program evaluation. Every 5 years, the state of Minnesota asks us to perform a program evaluation. There was quite an additional amount of money that the state of Minnesota had during the time of COVID, and they had a process where treatment courts could apply for grant funding to receive the program evaluation to be completely paid for outside of our allotted funds. And so we did receive that award in the amount of $8,000 to perform this program evaluation. Winona State University performed that for us, did a fantastic job. We were very appreciative of all their efforts. That was almost a year ago now, in late June of 2021, that was completed. And Winona State professors, one in particular, have been with us ever since that time to advise us on those recommendations, follow through with us, and we all feel with the program evaluators' support that we're in a very good place of following through on the recommendations given to us. 2 important things that I wanted to share that came out of that program evaluation of our recidivism rate. I've talked about that a handful of times here in front of the county board, and I think it's important to mention as one of those quantitative figures about success in our program. We look at recidivism, which means reoffending, new criminal offenses, felony or gross misdemeanor offenses after graduation. And we are at less than 15%. Coming into the program, that would have been 100%. All of them came in with a felony offense conviction. So we are very pleased with that. Our program evaluators are very pleased with that. The last time I was here, I talked about our graduation rate. I told you it was 56%, and we're very proud to be at 60% graduation rate. That surpasses the national average of 59%. The second highlight is an operational tune-up training. This was offered to us through the National Drug Court Association federal program. Again, this was all paid for with federal dollars. I don't know the exact amount, but we didn't have to pay any cost to that. Basically, they came over Zoom and they advised our treatment court team for 2 half-day sessions. And we went over the program evaluation together in much detail and any other outstanding improvements that we can make upon our program. We had full team participation in that. And we are always looking for ways to learn and to grow as a treatment court program. Many, many times, the state of Minnesota, our state treatment court coordinator, other courts have explicitly mentioned Winona County as a leader among treatment courts in our state, and we're very proud of that. And we're very proud to be a part of these and actively looking for ways to continue to improve. So with that being said, as a part of that tune-up training, we have what's called a time task plan every 30 days for some goals and every 60 days for others. We as a team are meeting with our advisors from the National Drug Court Association to make sure we're following through on those recommendations and everything is up to date and going very well. Lastly, from me, I just wanted to talk a bit about community engagement. We've had 8 graduations in the past fiscal year, and again, our 9th will be in July for Mr. Pullis. Winona Daily News, Winona Post have covered some of these graduations, and we've had lots of community support since those news articles being released to the community, and many community supporters attending those graduations, which is very important to us. We were involved in the courthouse open house this year. We spoke at Winona State University and St. Mary's University to the students there to share about our program. We continue to have a strong partnership with the Alliance for Substance Abuse Prevention Program. I sit on their board. Friends of Treatment Court, you'll notice in our paperwork here today that there are some things that the state of Minnesota does not cover for funding. That is why we have our Friends of Treatment Court program. We receive community donations into this fund to pay for things such as graduation celebrations, pro-social events in the community. We also received some really wonderful donations this year. Frozen River Film Festival provided tickets to their films. Just recently, we had Great River Shakespeare Festival provide 2 tickets to each of our participants and graduates. Common Ground Treatment Facility has provided t-shirts, food, things like that for different pro-social activities we do with their treatment clients. And then we have many community supporters that just provide donations to our program around the holidays or certain times of the year as well. Lastly, from me, we have our 10-year celebration happening in October. I'm hoping that everyone here has received an email about that, but October 6th, from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Winona County History Center, we're going to be having a presentation and celebration of our program in the community. So before I turn it over to Jeremy and Jeremy here, I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of our entire team, our participants and graduates and their families in the community for your ongoing support of our program. It's been a true honor to be in this position, and I really, really enjoy my job. So thank you for your time. I will let Mr. Pullis share a few words, and then Mr. Bobo, or however you'd like to.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Hi. I'll have 18 months sober the 27th of this month. And so 18 months ago, I was 43 years old. I'm now 44. I was jobless, homeless, and hopeless. And I found treatment court sitting in a jail cell. I'm a product of the system. I spent many, many years in prison, the revolving door of treatments, being on the street, and prison and stuff like, all that. So when I got into it, I mean, like when I say hopeless, I mean, there was no future for me. I hadn't had a job in many years, no driver's license. I didn't have any family. I mean, nothing. And what we had is Karen. And Karen and Bill Moe were so instrumental. This program is so great. I mean, it has truly changed. It has changed my life. I can't stress enough. I didn't really have a speech prepared, and I'm getting really nervous all of a sudden. There's a lot of great things. I'm fully employed, or full-time employed now, and I have been since about a month into the program. And I had help from treatment court getting a job and getting my license back, and finding a place to live. Housing was a really big hurdle for somebody with a lot of felonies and no rental history and no job history and credit and stuff like that. So 18 months later, my life has completely changed. I have a valid driver's license. I go to work every day, even when it's 110 degrees. And I do a lot of community outreach stuff with people that are still struggling, meetings. We we've spoke at the private school in Winona. We speak at treatment centers, and we do a lot of stuff to give back to the community. But I just wanted to say that treatment court is a wonderful thing. And even though we got better, this community is plagued with addiction issues, and it really needs this program to keep going. If it can change, I was hopeless. I mean, hopeless. And I got my act together here pretty good. So it really does do a lot of good in the community. And so I appreciate it. Just want to let you guys know that.
So I'm Jeremy Polis. I'm a current participant in the treatment court of Winona. I've been sober since October 16th of 2021. So, or 2020, I'm working on 2 years right now. This program has gave me the opportunity to switch my thinking around, my friends, I got my family back. I had passions when I was younger that I lost through drug addiction that I am fully engaged in today. You know, this program I've seen it throughout the years, and I've been resistant to it because I didn't have any hope, like Jeremy was saying. And once I grasped onto this program, it opened up the world like I've never seen it before, and has propelled me into my life as a productive citizen of this community, you know, and being able to see that I was actually valued by a community of treatment court and Karen and Bill and the team. And the other thing is, like, it's helped me to realize that to become accountable for myself at the beginning of the day and to make the right decisions every day moving forward, so I don't end up back into the criminal justice system. So thank you.
Just want to pass around a phase 4 project. Before everyone graduates from treatment court, they're required to do 20 hours and do a community project. This is from Mr. Matt Danziza. He put together his perspective on the program. So I'd like to pass that around.
The formal presentation is over. Commissioner Kavesi has a question, I think.
I just want to say, this program has my strongest backing. I've seen the program improve over the years, and I've seen it work for individuals as they reclaim their families, their sobriety, their employment, their housing rights, et cetera, et cetera. I think you two gentlemen, summed it up very nicely for us. I appreciate your hard work as you're going through these stages. And I think overall it greatly improves the quality of life. So it's a win-win-win as far as I'm concerned. And I would like to especially thank the team. They work behind the scenes quite often, but they are there. They provide oversight, they provide mentorship, they provide support and initiative on each phase of the program as I've seen it. So I'm just very appreciative of all the work that goes into it, including by the participants, obviously. I would just recommend, if anyone ever has the chance to attend a graduation, sometimes it's important to bring your tissues, but there are literally life-changing activities going on with this program, and I can't stress enough how important that is to the individuals and to our community. So thank you very much for all of your hard work.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes, thank you for the work you're doing. So I've been around a long time, and I was pre-drug court, and I have a colleague former county board Commissioner Dwayne Vagley, and I went to La Crosse to talk to Judge John Perlich, and that's where we got the idea to start drug court many, many years ago. I am disappointed, though, that the state of Minnesota and the federal government doesn't do more funding. I mean, with the return on investment and the change in lives and everything, it's, what is it? We're getting $86,000.
It was 100,000 when I started 5 years
Yes,
ago.
and the funding keeps going down, and that's a issue I have with higher levels of government, is they see great programs and then they decide, well, they're working and they're doing great, we can start cutting the funding and such. And we know expenses haven't gone down on anything, so that part of it is disappointing to me, that we get less and less. But I do appreciate the great work that's being done and the changes in your lives. So thank you.
So at different points over the years, we've been asked to have a certain amount of county funding match this, but this is still 100% funded by the state. We're not being pressured for county match at this point. I'd like to say, yeah, I appreciate the good work being done, and it's great to see the great results in the community. This $86,400 is being put towards this program. Whether it comes from the county, whether it comes from the state or federal, or where it comes from, it's still coming from taxpayers. So I think we need to be appreciative not only of the results of the program, but where the funds come from. And we can feel good about implementing it here in Winona County, but ultimately it's taxpayers paying for it.
Mr. Olson?
Motion to approve 7.2.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Olson has moved. Commissioner Kavesi has seconded approval of the State of Minnesota Cooperative Agreement to fund treatment court and the resolution that proclaims supporting of National Treatment Court Month. Is there further discussion? As the chair, speaking last, I just want to say fabulous work and congratulations to both of you. I'm grateful for all of the aspects, and I just would echo what Commissioner Kavesi has said. Way to go.
Thank you.
Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving item 7.1 signify by saying, Commissioner Olson.
7.2.
Pardon me, yes.
Yes.
7.2, approval of the cooperative agreement for treatment court and the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion is passed. Next item is 7.3, which is to receive the monthly finance and budget update for April of 2022. I saw Mr. Moga on Ring Central.
Good morning. We'll be talking about the finance update for April. The beginning cash for April starts out in the general fund as 10.8 million. Actual revenues are $906,000. Actual expenses are 1.7 million. Ending cash is 9.9 million. For the year in the general fund, cash starts out at 14.8 million. Actual revenues are 2.2 million. Actual expenses are 7.1 million. Ending balance is 9.9 million. The variance in the general fund is a negative 4.8 compared to last year as a negative $5 million. For all the funds being presented, the variance is a negative 7.5 compared to a negative 8.7. I do want to point out on this document that community services is negative at this time. Taxes haven't been posted. They will be posted here in the month of June. And so revenues will go up significantly throughout all the funds. Any questions on this document?
I don't hear any.
So then we'll go to the summary cash flow. Summary cash flow, beginning cash starts at $19 million. Actual revenues are $7.5 million. Actual expenses are 14.9. Ending cash is 11.7. The variance, negative 7.3 compared to a negative 8.7. Any questions on this document? If not, we'll go to the next document. And this is where we'll be looking at the budget through April. April is 33% of the way through the year. Looking at this point, the only one that is over at this point is human services at 34%. And all the revenues are actually low at this point because of the taxes. We'll see that increase here in June. So 2 more months before we will see that information because of the timing of the reports. And I also want to point out that interest at this point is $17,000. We had budgeted $250,000. Any questions on this document?
Pat, watch the feds and see what they do with interest rates. We may be able to pick up a little of that in the next few weeks.
Yep, I hear that that may be going up. So
Get back on track.
no other questions? Thank you.
Are we ready to move on? Okay, item 7.5 is to approve or deny future agenda.
Oh, 7.4.
7.4, oh, pardon me. All right. 7.4, discuss and or approve or appoint Citizen Advisory Committee volunteers. We have, just for the audience, we have openings on the Economic Development Authority, on the library, the CELCO board. We also have openings on Extension and the Parks and Environment Committee, where we have one application, and that individual has expressed a number 1 preference of Parks and Environment and a number 2 choice of the Extension Committee. I am acquainted with the applicant, Beth Stanford. Although I wouldn't say that I'm friends with her, she was most recently the Head Start coordinator at the SEMCAC, and I am represented the county on the SEMCAC board, so I know her from there. Mr. Olson?
So her first choice is Parks and Environment. I will move to appoint Beth Stanford to the Parks and Environment Committee.
Second.
Commissioner Olson has moved to appoint Beth Stanford to the Parks and Environment Committee, and Commissioner Kavesi has seconded that. Discussion? Commissioner Ward?
Just a question on process, being that we're halfway through the year. So this slot on that committee will follow the rotation that the seat is open because we have the 2-year appointments.
Whatever term.
Up to left. Right, so she'll fall into that category. Okay.
Hearing no other discussion, I would like to go ahead and call for the vote on appointment of Beth Stanford to the Parks and Environment Committee. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. And staff will notify Ms. Stanford. Okay, so now we are actually at item 7.5, which is to approve or deny a future agenda item to discuss audio visual abilities in the county boardroom.
Yeah, this is an item that I had brought forward. And my reasoning was, after seeing multiple years of COVID and the video activity, I felt like we can, by adopting a formal policy, that we can improve our transparency, our ability to interact with the public. The technology is there. We've been using it for years. So I felt the board should discuss and adopt some type of formal policy that, whenever feasible, that we would use interactive audio visual technology to enhance the interaction with the community and the community's ability to interact with their local government.
Correct me if I'm wrong, that would be our next the virtual meetings policy. This item is this would be at the second hearing, I think, where we need to get a vote of 3. This item
This audio, video,
to discuss the capabilities in this room.
The next item.
Concerns about, my concern with it had to do with that folks in the back can't hear. Commissioner Jacob. But I do believe that you are the one who advanced this item at our last meeting.
okay.
Okay, so Commissioner Kvesi.
Yeah, I would also like to include that we address the acoustics and the qualities of the boardroom itself. I've heard many complaints. I know myself, I have a hard time keeping visual contact. And if I'm attending virtually, I sometimes have a hard time with the audio. So I just think there's a number of issues that we could address and improve so that we have more visibility, more transparency, more participation, all of those qualities that are important for the board and for the participants.
I think specifically I had a constituent ask me to bring this forward because our cameras show the participant from their back, and they said, you know, we have the technology to have a camera showing the person at the podium from the front rather than from the back. And many constituents have complained about things are too muffled or too garbled. They're not getting it through the what we're doing here. They're not hearing clearly on the Zoom aspect of the meeting. So I guess that was the idea of getting that onto a full county board discussion. So if we have 3 votes there, I'd like to see that fully vetted and hopefully improved.
Got a motion?
Sure, that's a motion.
Second.
Okay. I'm going to give it the second to Commissioner Ward. Okay.
Okay.
I apologize. Okay, so we identified, I guess, 3 items. But in general, it is the concerns about the ability of the public, either on Zoom or here in the room, to adequately see and hear us. And has to do with the muffled, has to do with the way that the cameras are pointed. So
This is just a vote to get it to a full board
yep,
discussion.
that's right.
Okay.
Yep, but yes, that's right. So Commissioner Jacob has moved and Commissioner Ward has seconded that we go ahead and move this forward to a future board meeting to discuss the audio video abilities in this room. Is there further discussion? Commissioner Ward.
I wouldn't want it necessarily restricted to just this room. Because I have had constituents ask, like our road and bridge, which we hold out at the highway, and we have done Zoom from there. So I don't want to restrict it just to this room. I think the emphasis is on this room, but not just this room. So if there's other capabilities.
Do you feel that there's a difficulty with hearing things at that? Because this is not the same as our next agenda item, which has to do with our virtual meetings policy.
It's kind of, they're linked
I
together.
understand what you're saying. So.
Yeah. Yeah, don't restrict us just to this room, I guess. If staff sees and has a need for other facilities to be compliant or accessible, I don't want to restrict their thought process in expanding it if need be.
So to clarify, you're talking about potentially giving it audio video capabilities.
Right. Well, and even just through the Zoom. Dave Kramer has set up some of our highway meetings through Zoom, and that has been sufficient for people who wanted to attend.
I think that this vote is about the actual equipment and the functioning, and the next vote is about our policy of that
Yeah.
same topic.
That's what I think, yeah.
They're linked.
Okay, further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. We need a vote of at least 3 to move this forward to a future meeting. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, the item moves on. So this is item 7.6, which is to discuss, modify, or potentially approve a virtual meetings policy, which is quite concise and is in our packet on page 234. Administrator Holmes.
So the direction, as I understood it, was to come up with a draft policy for discussion. So this is just exactly that. It's meant as a discussion point. Very open to changes, revisions. I tried to be very succinct and worked with the county attorney to develop this. So very open to revisions.
Yeah, I have a question. Recently, we approved on the consent agenda 1.1 million for IT to upgrade their equipment. And I was just curious if some of that upgrade is available to use with the interactive technology, or I guess I wanted to know more about what that upgrade included, which is another topic, but if it includes.
That if you want me to real quick.
I love that.
So that's separate from the 1.1 million was for our network refresh. It's more security related. AV is quite separate. We don't actually in-house AV. It's all brought in from a vendor that we have. But I do believe we have some tricks up our sleeves to improve some things without a lot of added costs. So we'll look into that. And when you talk on your next board meeting, we'll get some better ideas for you.
Since you're here, I mean, I have been thinking about the 1.1 million and the network refresh, and I can understand the value of not making public that which is our vulnerability.
Right.
And yet I do think it's important to understand what our vulnerability has been and how far we're along in fixing it.
So
And
what I'm planning on doing as we speak, I'm going to put a PowerPoint together for all of you, a high level. I don't want to get into too many details, but I'll work with Maureen to bring that forward and present it to you. Kind of where we're at, where we have been, where what the future holds for us. So
Good, that would be very helpful.
sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to adopt this policy as written. I think it's very concise and it captures the intent to quote, to the extent practical and whenever possible, use virtual access using interactive technology will be provided to public meetings. There may be occasions where virtual access to a public meeting is not feasible. So, we had that discussion about if it's a Parks and Environmental meeting and we're meeting out at the park, that it's not feasible. But whenever the technology is there, we want to set the policy that we want to include the public in every way that we can. We want full transparency. I think this policy does that. I think it's well written. I think it's concise. There's not pieces in there that don't need to be in there. So I'll make a motion to adopt this policy as written.
Second.
Greg, Commissioner Olson this one. Okay, so Commissioner Jacob has moved to adopt this policy and Commissioner Olson has seconded it. Further discussion? I want to go last as the board chair, but I do have some questions, or at least a question. So the policy is great and I'm going to support it. And then as needed in future meetings, the specifics of perhaps Commissioner Ward's concerns about like, what are we going to do with road and bridge, or what are we going to do with Parks and Environment or the EDA, or how we make those meetings available, that, that will come up as items individually sort of in the future. Okay, great.
And I feel like that answers that first sentence, to the extent practical and whenever possible.
Yeah, but should there be expenses associated with it, then we would find out about it as it was needed, is what I'm assuming, based on our policies there. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. That concludes what was in the original agenda, and we now move on to Commissioner Ward, who had two updates for us.
Yes. Thursday, we had a SHAC meeting, the State Community Health Service Advisory Committee, meeting in person, and Commissioner Jan Malcolm attended. She had an invitation from the governor to go stand and do a meet and greet at a testing site, but she chose to come to the Shack meeting, which was flattering to all of us public health people. Public health has taken a real hit with this pandemic and all the information and misinformation and messaging. And so the legislature, even prior to the pandemic, had given a number of dollars for public health to kind of reinvent themselves or fine tune themselves. So they will be working on through subgroups to use that state money to really emphasize the whole intent of public health is prevention versus intervention. And that was primarily the discussion, and many work groups are going to be working on that throughout the next year or so to clarify that. And as with any committee, we all go to different committees, and every group talks their lingo. They all got their acronyms, their initials and everything. And with a big change is coming forward in our legislature. So everything from public health to emergency communications to roads and bridges and everything, there has to be an enormous amount of education. And that's part of what this group talked about. And part of our, we had an emergency communications meeting yesterday also, is how the messaging has to be brought forward to new county board members, new state legislatures, and new federal legislatures. So there's going to be a lot of discussion on communication and how we use that, and to get away from talking in acronyms when you're in, know your audience, who you're talking to, and how you can communicate that. So that's happening at all levels. And then I wanted to give a shout out to Ms. Holte. She was quoted in a Star Tribune article, June 11th. It was June 11th. You can go on. It was on this morning, still on the website. It was an article about the legislature not passing a tax bill, which affects our local option sales tax to pay for the jail. And I believe you were the only county person quoted in that article. So make a copy for yourself and put it in your file. But the gist of it is that the state legislature did not pass any bonding bill or tax bill, which affects, and it had a long list of projects throughout the state of Minnesota that were looking for the option of using a sales tax to pay for those things. And that's what Winona County was working on. So it was nice to see a local person quoted, and we took center stage in a Star Tribune article. So thank you.
Commissioner Kavesi, I think you had a committee report.
Yeah, the WINLAC, the Winona La Crescent One Watershed, One Plan group, that explains that acronym, I hope, had a meeting yesterday, and we had an update on the We Are Water program. It has officially left the History Center, but we have part two. We have a new exhibit on display at the History Center, and it's also set to be available at the county fair. And at the county fair, we will have a water bar. So stay tuned, show up so that you can vote on the water qualities that you can taste in the water bar. We had a summary of all the waterside chats, and this was an extensive outreach activity that the WINLAC carried on, and that is available on the website. I believe it's 18 pages of summarizing and categorizing and organizing these comments that's available for the public to look at. We had a presentation from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency on identifying stressors in the environment. And that's kind of a peek at the future, what's happening with our fish life, with our stream banks, some of those activities, if we can intervene in specific ways. But that'll be good information as the committee continues its work. And speaking of future events, we had a preview of several sections of the planning structure, which we will discuss at the policy committee in July. So our next meeting is July 11th at 9 o'clock, and we are available virtually. So tune in for more progress, hopefully, on the WinLAC and the One Watershed, One Plan.
Thank you. Commissioner Olson.
I'm going to ask for a future agenda item. We all received communications from Greg Shoei through Marine regarding a fee he was charged. And I'd just like to have us discuss that.
I'll second that. Okay. I also had a board action. I would like this board to have a formal review of our 2020 audit that we received in 2021. And this is the state audit that is done by the state auditor's office. And I would also like the board to consider, as we consider having a review of this audit, doing this on an annual basis so that we are aware of what's in the audit, as we are fiscally and financially responsible for the county as the county board. And that is something that our school board does. And I know that the city council also does. They don't use the state auditor office, but I've sort of been checking it, but they do have a special meeting where they review the audit. And the reason that I say this is that this year, in my role as board chair, I got to attend the kickoff meeting, which was, I don't know, it was weeks ago now. And what I learned is, despite the fact that the previous administration told us that this was a clean audit and there were no issues, we actually had material weaknesses in our internal controls. And we also had reported significant deficiencies. So I would really like us to understand the significance and importance of what those were, and how long they've been there, and if they are getting corrected. And I would like to make sure that we give appropriate direction to our interim administrator in terms of how and what we choose to do if we want them resolved.
I'll second that.
Okay, so that is our last item on the agenda.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Commissioner Olson has moved, Kvesi has seconded. All those in favor of it, Commissioner Ward.
A thank you to the highway department. In my neighborhood, there was significant damage to a few of our county roads, and they're out there early this morning cleaning it up. So they're doing their job.
All those in
Thank
favor
you.
of adjourning, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We are adjourned. Please help yourself.